My name is Dana McFatter. My background is, well, technically I like to sort of identify as a creative technologist. I do a lot of work in visual arts, music, and technology. My background on paper is music and technology with a minor in game design. We'll come to sort of understand the interface. I'll walk you through the interface and we'll talk about how things work in Max. So Max MSP, for those of you guys that don't know it, is sort of a visual programming environment / language for art, multimedia, design, interactive installation music. So it's really, I like to think of it as a one-stop shop for a lot of things. Today we'll sort of be covering a little bit about the MSP part, which is the multi-signal processing or the audio-related stuff, as well as we'll be covering a bit of the jitter stuff, which is the more visual-based things. So the most important thing in Max MSP when making a patch is creating signal flow, which basically means connecting objects or messages to each other, which is why they have these little things. If you float around a message or an object, you'll see these little these little circles here, and those are going to be your inputs and outputs. Inputs are always going to be at the top of your object or message, and outputs are always going to be on the bottom. Start with a very simple sine tone oscillator, and what I want to do is I want to be able to give it a frequency to work with, and then output that sound from Max into my headphones or whatever I'm listening on. To again press N to create a new object, and then I'm going to type in gain, which is the volume control that I'm looking to work with. Again, you'll know that it should have a tilde at the end because we're working with audio. And once I do that, it actually creates this awesome little slider for me here. And that's what you can use to control your volume. So like I said, Max is more user-friendly, so it's creating a piece of UI that makes sense for what you're working with. And then the last part of your sort of signal flow to create audio is an audio output or a DAC. So I'm going to put output is your DAC, which is your digital to audio converter, which is going to transform this digital information that's coming out into sound that you can hear. And the object that we're going to be working with here is, I'm going to hit N again to create a new object. The name of this object that we're going to be working with is EZDAC. So the letter E, the letter Z, and then DAC. Tilde. I have my sound source, which is a cycle object. I've specified what frequency I want it to sound at. I can now basically listen to what that frequency sounds like. So in order to do that, I'm going to lock the patch again. And then I'm going to turn on my audio using this little symbol here. And as you see, we talked about this earlier, I turned on this, it's engaged, which means that it's blue. Another indicator that your audio is on is if you look at this thing in the corner that we talked about before, this is also blue, which represents that indeed your audio is on. And then to be able to hear it now, I just want to drag up my volume. And as you can see, when I drag up the volume, I can hear the audio coming out. Maybe I also want to control the fogger effect using this frequency. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hover over here. I know my input based on what this helper icon here is telling me. The range is going to be between 0 and 1, which is great, which is what I'm already scaling to. And the same thing for the Y range. So I can very easily just stick those into here now. And now again, these dials, the left, the X and Y range, and the horizontal and vertical range are going to change as I drag these numbers up and down. So as you can see, as I change the frequency for this oscillator, it's changing the video effect, which is the interaction that I want to do. Talk about the individual portions of what's in this interface. and we'll move in from after discussing sort of an overview of what we have in the interface to how we can create sort of an interactive system first between Unity and Max using OSC or Open Sound Control, which is a networking protocol that I'll talk a little bit about more later. And I'll walk you through what this interface is, what we're looking to control, and then how we can connect this into Unity. So if everyone has been able to open up this interface, I'll talk you through what's in this patch and how that will connect into Unity.
I started out as a musician. I'm a sound artist for 30 years, and probably for the last 20 years, I was doing a lot of multi-channel stuff. I would like to, at the beginning, when we talk about multi-channel sound, just want to distinguish the two concepts, how I see it. One is the concept of the static sound. You have a sound always in one speaker. And then you have the other concept that's a little bit more complicated, when the sound moves between different speakers, moving sound sources. Sounds that do not move, that is what I call static. You have one sound in one speaker and it's just there the whole time, or intermittently or whatever, and then you have another sound in another speaker. So here's your head, and we have sounds in different speakers, sometimes louder, sometimes softer, and they do not move. The good news with that is that if you use a concept like that, you are not bound to have something that is like in a circle or like a quad system that is in the four corners. For artists, it's very interesting when you react to the room and to the environment that you can put also the speakers anywhere you want. So here what I did is I put multiple speakers up. They point into different directions. They also have different volumes here. And even everybody who is in an environment like this has their own listening experience. What you see now here is at the top is this 1 minute example from a cafeteria talk, uncut. Then I cut it apart and copied it down and put it and rearranged it. I took these pieces apart and rearranged it for the third and for the fourth version. Well, by simply looking at how the waveforms look to make them not line up too much. So channel 2, 3, and 4 are the same audio as in channel 1. It's just like cut up in different ways. And if you just like want to listen to it, can also use other more electronic techniques by reversing sounds, time stretching the same sound to have it appear at different times, and so on. And here's just like a 10 or 20-second example where I used a reverb. Then I reversed it, which you do not have in nature, reverse reverb, and patched them together in a way that like they fade out somewhere and fade back into in the next channel, and then go back in and out. So please listen to example 5. My favorite piece of all time is David Tudor's Rainforest, sound installation that has all the elements that I mentioned at the very beginning, which uses objects hanging around in the space above and below the audience, left, right, and whatever. And it uses transducers, like loudspeakers without a cone that you drill or affix to an object and make the object basically the cone, the vibrating one. The object at the same time also affects the sound and you act as a filter. And then you walk around in it and you listen to it.